All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. That's fantastic. I'm glad to see so many people here at the end of the session. We are recording, so if you're having a great hair day, leave your camera on, or you don't mind being in a recording, you can go ahead and leave your camera on, but you don't have to. I just want you to know that it's okay if you want it off. We are going to be interacting, but it's going to be through this other platform. So our focus is how can we purposefully integrate technology to enhance student learning? So that's really important because math and technology have a long history. I don't know if you were like I was when I was little. You probably are too young for this, but I had Little Professor, and this was the first time I saw math and technology. And it would give you questions and you would give it answers, and it would tell you right or wrong. And it even keep track of it, like you could have scores. And as time went by, we had other things like Math Blaster. I don't know if you remember Math Blaster, and then even Compass Learning, where it would give you a question and then tell you if you were right or wrong. And then, of course, we had Alex, right? So where they fill those little pie charts in, that's when my kids were going through this. And I must tell you just a little bit that they spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to use paint to make those little pie charts look full, even though they were not full. So I thought that was very interesting. And again, we still have that same thing. Is this the right or the wrong answer? So we put in an answer, it tells us if we're right or wrong. And there is a time and place for this. Like we want our kids to be accurate, but as we know, just simply by looking at student answers, it doesn't tell the whole story of student thinking. Nor is it what mathematicians actually do. Like mathematical thinkers, they don't just do a whole bunch of problems. And it's missing the standards for mathematical practice. And so oftentimes our kids, when we're doing this kind of technology, they look like this, like something's missing. And this kid looks like he wishes he were missing because they're not really engaged in that mathematical creative process, which makes students very excited about things. So things like this, there's no collaboration or creativity, and it's not the fault of the technology. It wasn't designed to do that. It's really difficult to get technology to be able to do that sort of thing. There also is, they don't have the ability to make student mathematical thinking visible. You can't see why they got the incorrect answer. You can't even see if they're close, if they have no idea, or if they maybe just calculated a little bit. Wouldn't it be great if technology can make our students look like this with math? But this probably makes you a little uncomfortable, makes me a little uncomfortable right now because we know that this is way too close. Let's put some masks on them. And then we got to separate them, right? Okay, so it's hard to see that they're having so much fun, but really we want technology to have student faces like this rather than like this. So today we're going to experience a collaborative and creative math technology platform. And you're going to look at this from the lens of the student and as the teacher. So you're going to wear two hats here. So you get to experience a little bit as both. And the way we're going to look at this is through two types of activities. So these two types of activities are going to be, a guess who math style. Woo. And an activity builder. So that activity builder was when you started off with right now, and that will have starter screens and card sorts. So Guess Who, you probably have heard of Guess Who before. It's a great game to start talking about logical thinking. You have a person and you're trying to guess the other person. You ask them yes or no questions like, does your person have glasses? And if the answer is no, then you put down all the people. So we can do this for math. So there's a Guess Who for math, and it's called Polygraph. Don't be scared by the name Polygraph. It means many graphs. This platform started off as high school and has now steadily moved all the way down so that it can be accessed by anybody. And you're going to be using 10 frames today. So you're not going to be doing any graphs or anything like that. If you know how to play Guess Who, you can go ahead and skip the practice round. You can click skip the practice round. Otherwise, it takes students through that process of guessing who their student is. So they choose it. Most of the students I work with do this practice round first before they get into this. ST Math Online. I haven't heard of ST Math Online. I will have to research that.
It stands for spatial temporal. And it's doing math without language. It's all pictorial.
Nice.
It was very challenging and very good, but it was very expensive, and parents eventually didn't want to keep paying for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I understand that, right? So you get to experience this as a student. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the chat, or you can go, this is a new tab, new activity. You can go to this. You're just going to sign in with Google so that it's in the chat, or you can go to student.desmos.com and it should pull you into what's called a polygraph, and you should see some 10 frames if you skip the practice round. Otherwise, you'll be in a practice round. So I see some people joining. And you can go ahead and get answers wrong or right, you know, however you want to experience this as a student. And then I'm letting you, there's a way you can make these names anonymous. I am letting them be the actual name, because probably what you would have to do with our littles, they're not going to be able to type the question. They're going to have to ask it out loud. And so they will have to find their partner and ask the question out loud in order to be able to click down the boxes. Let's put that in the chat again. And these 10 frames are super important for the connection to the area model later, all through high school, actually. So you saw that it wasn't anonymous. Now I'm going to go ahead and click the anonymize button, and that's going to give you a name of a famous mathematician. And I'm doing that just because I have this up here for teachers to be working on, and I don't want you to feel weird about typing in things that are there for everybody to see.
WJY.
Do you need the code again? There's a code in the chat. It's in the chat. It's let me move
WJY.
this. Yeah. WJY T5Q.
No, I don't.
I don't think I'm in the right place.
You don't think you're in the right place?
I did the practice round.
Okay, so then does it say it's waiting for a partner? Here, I'll unanonymize.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, I see you. It says you're inactive. Oh, have you been assigned somebody now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I'm recording, I just have this on my screen so that you can see as a teacher, like if you wanted to go back and look at this, you can see what I see as a teacher as you're experiencing it as a student. Somebody asked the question, is it more than 15? Which is an interesting question, because what if it is 15? That can be interesting for students. Now with our littles, they would have to ask this question out loud. So they would have to ask it with each other and hit enter in order to be able to click their tiles down, or their little screens down. Because I don't think they'd be able to type in there. And I'm getting just a little bit of background noise. So if you wouldn't mind muting, just because I'm echoing. Partner is not responding. Yeah, I know that. If your partner is not responding, let's see. Looks like inactive. Go ahead and join again. If your partner is not responding, they may have gone to another place. Yeah, in about one more minute, you're not going to be finished with all of it. We are just doing a little sampling of what this has to offer today. So you won't be able to have the full experience where they'll pair you up again with somebody else necessarily, and you'll probably be paused in the middle of the game. So I wanted to warn you. This is a really great game for parents to play with their kids at home too. So this is something that can be accessed by parents as well. And then about 10 seconds, and I'm going to pause us. Okay, so I paused, and it's sad because I can't hear the audible oh, which you always hear when you pause that activity with Desmos, which I love that students don't want to stop doing math. It's fantastic. And no matter what grade level, it could be younger all the way up through adults, they get very sad when you pause that activity, which is great. This activity comes from Desmos. Now, Desmos started as a graphing calculator. I mean, that's what it started with many, many years ago. They thought graphing calculators should be free for students. All students should have access. If you have older students, they are super expensive to buy. And Desmos is like, wait a minute, we want to make sure everybody has access to this. So it started that way. And then they started building these activities. And then it kind of moved down. You saw it kind of transition all the way down to middle school. And they just recently hired somebody in elementary school. It has been and will always be free. And their pedagogy is on point. Like, they really understand what it is to learn mathematics. And it's very important to them that it's not just a right or wrong, and that it really allows for creativity and specific feedback. Now, you did this with math. This can be done, though, this polygraph could be done with maybe sight words or colors or characteristics or seasons. So this polygraph isn't just math. You can use it for many different other things, as well as the other activity builder platform that we're going to look at later. What I love about this is it does vocabulary the right way. So if you let students first talk about it and struggle a little bit, like, how do I ask this question? They want that vocabulary. They want that. Is the frame full? Is it more than 15? Is it less than 15? They want to be able to use those words because it helps them do this activity. So what you'll notice if you go back and look at the recording, let's make sure I'm actually recording. Yes. If you go back and look at the recording, you'll see what I was seeing, and I can see those student responses. You would have to listen because you'd be in the classroom and they'd be asking each other, and make note some of those things, like that more than 15, that less than 15, as they're working through that. So best practices is experience it and then label it for the students to be able to use. A little bit more difficult to do, but much more powerful. Also, it's collaborative. When is technology ever collaborative? So it's great in that it's collaborative. Students are working together. They find each other and then ask those questions to each other. It's also creative. They have to figure out what kind of question they're going to ask in order to be able to get most of those responses down. So they have to really be thinking about what question might work. And then the person listening has to be an active listener and figure out what that person means. You don't have students looking like this when they're playing polygraph ever, which is nice. So when are you going to do this? Because you have so much going on. So beginning of a unit is great because that builds those vocabulary things. Rainy day recess, they don't want to stop playing. Wrapping up a unit, or what about with your 5th grade buddies? I mean, wouldn't that be great to have them have a chat with students over this Guess Who game? So that's a really fun idea. You could even put them into breakout rooms. I don't know if you could do that with kindergarten and first. You'll have to let me know if you could do that or not, but then play with their buddies while they were online so they could talk to each other. So how? We're just going to talk a little bit about the how. It's going to be here recorded if you want to go back and look at it. So the pause, the anonymize, the dash, and how to assign it. So right here is just, you just push the pause button. As soon as you do that, you have everybody's attention back again because they can't do anything in the activity. So that pause brings all of your students back to where you are. This is the anonymize button. You just push the anonymize button and everybody becomes a mathematician. So there are ways you can assign it. You can either go to teacher.desmos.com or click on a teacher activity link. Now, I have a whole bunch of resources I compiled for elementary school that has grade level specific ones. So you would just click on one of those if you wanted to assign it. You can either make a class, which I wouldn't recommend doing yet. Make sure you like it first, or you can just assign a single activity like we did today. So to make a class, you click Manage Classes, you add a class, name it, and I always put the year on there, so I name that class, and then there's a link, and you can put this into Canvas or however students access links, Canvas or the chat, and then they just click on that and sign in with Google, and they're automatically added to your class. So it just they don't have to type anything in, they just sign in with Google, and then they're in. But you don't have to do a class. So say you wanted a polygraph, you could just go to teacher.desmos, you could type in polygraph, and it's going to pull up ones that you've used or have in your collection. You can also click on one of those links that are specific for kindergarten and first grade. And then once you get there, you just click on it. And then the assign button. So right here is the single session code, which is what I used today. And so that single session code, you don't have to do any classes or anything. And then you just click on the student link. And then it gives you this code. And again, I put this in my Canvas calendar. I don't know how it will work best with kindergarten and first grade, however they get links and they just click on it and automatically join. You probably don't want to have them type in student.desmos.com and the code, because that would probably take all day long. You will want to have a link that they can click on. The second type of activity you already started. It's the activity builder, and it's an interactive way to share thinking. And this can be done synchronous or asynchronous. It doesn't have to be all together. Students don't have to move to other desks to ask the question. It can be done either way, synchronous or asynchronous. Probably starting with synchronous is good. You'll want to teach kids kind of how to navigate through the dashboard. This is the continued activity. It's the one you already started, and I'm going to move you past screen 6. So you can go past screen 6, and you're going to go back into that activity and just pay attention to kind of how kids can create things and how they can think differently. So as you go back into that activity, and I'll go ahead and paste you past that screen. And we're just going to look at it. You won't have time to complete this activity. And think about if you were doing this synchronously, you would probably have to read the slide to the students. There is a place where you can put in videos if you wanted to, but you could also just read that slide to them and then have them move. And try to be wrong. See what happens if you're wrong in there. Test it out a little bit. I'm showing you the teacher dashboard right now. So like while you're working on it, the teacher dashboard is up here. It doesn't read the directions. No, you would have to paste it. So you'd have to leave it right at the first slide and you'd have to ask them to do that and then kind of watch in real time how they're doing it. So I'm showing you right now what I'm seeing as a teacher, and it's different than what you're seeing as a student. Here's the student link if you need the student link. And then I can see where all the students are. Okay, so in about 30 seconds, I'm going to pull you to a card sort if you're not there already. And again, I'll open this all back up so you can have access to the whole thing. Okay, about 10 seconds, and I'm going to pull you to a card sort if you're not already there. And you don't have to go there. I will just automatically pull you there, but I just want to warn you. Sorry. So this is what the card sort looks like. I know a lot of our youngers use this to match things. You could use it for many things. You don't have to use it for math. Works well with math, but you could even match the picture to the sight word. And then that last one, that number 20, which you'll be able to see later if you didn't see it now, it's a slide from the math manipulatives. So with a 10-frame math manipulative. And again, I'm showing you on the Zoom screen, like what I'm seeing. So I can see any students who are working on this particular one, since I've clicked on the 10-frame one, and I can see exactly what they're doing. So I can see if somebody needs help. Okay, about 30 seconds, and I'm gonna pause you wherever you are. And again, I'll open it all back up for you to play with however you want to after our session. Ten seconds, and I'm gonna pause. I think that Desmos will eventually have something where it'll read the directions to the students. I think that that will come. Right now, what I've seen teachers do is make a video just saying the directions before they do the activity, but that's a lot of work. So my guess is that they will do that. They're very into accessibility and have changed a lot since shutdown. There's been a lot of, since schools have had to go virtual, they've done a lot of work. Okay, I'm pausing, sorry, if you're playing with 10 frames. So this is great. So the why of Activity Builder makes thinking visible. Like I can see what all students are doing all the time. Like I can see where they are, I can see where they're at. It allows a little bit for creativity and exploration. It's not telling them how to do something. The feedback it gives is great feedback. It's collaborative usually, so not right now, but 2 students per Chromebook works the best, and so that they can talk to that. So 2 students per Chromebook normally in non-COVID times. That way they can talk through the activity and they can help each other. So if somebody gets stuck, they're not always calling you over. Okay. So when do you want to use this kind of thing? If you ever need to see like students problem solving, so you want to see their process more than just the end product. Formative assessment is great. So it's great for formative assessment, showing something. Can two students log in to the same game remotely? Just one, so they log in by themselves. You can put them in breakout rooms, but again, I don't have experience with kindergarten and first grade in breakout rooms. I don't know how that works out. But yeah, it's only assigned per student. They can't use the same one online. Yeah, unless they're in a breakout room and they can talk to each other while one of them's doing it. Sorting, that card sort is really great, and you can use that for all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be math, it can be colors and all sorts of things. You did a big activity. It doesn't have to be a big activity. It can just be a card sort, or it can just be a 10 frame. It doesn't have to have all of those things in there with the more and the less and the marbles and all of that. Summarizing learning at the end of a unit, it's really good for that. And you have access to all those student responses forever. So that's always in your teacher dashboard. How, just a little bit of the how. The pacing, An overlay, I really like this one. And then grade level links. So there'll be links that are specific for kindergarten and first that teachers have been designing. Desmos has moved much more to elementary. They've got a new person on board. So I expect more and more elementary stuff to be coming out. So the pacing, I moved you around. You can pace students so they only stay on one screen. And that's really helpful so they don't get confused about where they are in the session. So you can either do one, restrict them to one screen at a time, or you can restrict them to a certain number of slides, which you saw at the beginning. So you couldn't move past slide 6. And so on there, you can always stop and edit it. This little plus button just lets you continue to add. So as you progress through a lesson and let students go backwards. This right here, you can tell who's on what slide. And if you click on it, you actually see their names. So you can see who's on what slide there. And that's really nice to know, like somebody's still stuck on slide 1 and everybody else is on slide 10. What's going on, you know? So that's a really nice thing to be able to see. You can see what student responses are. So if you click on one of those slides, just like it did with the 10 frames, I could see all of your 10 frames up here. No, you don't need to create a class to do any of this. So classes are actually brand new this year. You can just do a single session sign-on code and you can do all of this stuff. You don't need to create a class. You click on a specific student and you can see their responses like in real time there. This is an example of like looking at a card sort, and this card sort's combined with other things, but it doesn't have to be. So you see these little cards right here. It shows you the checks and X's. The checks means they've got them matched correctly. The X's means they may or may not have them matched correctly if they don't connect them all the way. They sometimes won't work like that. So you have to like go to their thing. So this is what it looked like when you were sorting cards. You have certain cards that are matched and I can see which ones are matched and which ones aren't. And if I want to go to a certain student, I just click on them and it brings me to their card sort. So I can see exactly where they are. So it's really helpful to be able to see all of those things going on. At the beginning, you signed in and you said how you were doing today. So there's lots of different things there. You can slide that to see how well you're doing, and you can have them respond over here. We didn't do that for our littles because they're probably not going to type anything in, but they can slide that. And so you can do an overall class check by individual student, but you can also push that overlay and get a temperature check for your whole class. So you can see all those little dots where everybody is. And that overlay is really nice. Upper elementary, maybe something like this, and you can see the overlay, how the class is doing. You can also see how confident they feel. So the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and then you can see each individual student, like where they are, but you could also do an overlay. Like if they're talking about, okay, so how many people feel like they can say how many are in a 10 frame, and then they can slide that bar and you can see overall how your class is doing. So doing mathematics should always mean finding patterns and crafting beautiful meaning explanations. And with technology, it has not always been like that. The technology has been more about the right answers and not so much about finding patterns and creating things. But if we just add a little bit of collaboration and creativity, we won't have students who look like they are longing for somewhere else to be in class. We'll have students like this after we get rid of masks and social distancing, and hopefully we'll have some happier students with our technology. I'm going to go ahead and paste you to the last 3 slides. On the last 3 slides are the resources for today, and also just like a little, if you want to learn more, oops. If you want to learn a little bit more, there's a place for you to fill out things and I will follow up with you. And in addition, there are both the kindergarten and the first grade tasks linked in that last slide, but I also have them here in this anchor page, which I'll put in the chat. So in there are just by grade level, and it also has some videos, like if you decide you want to create something of your own, it has a little video on how to make a card sort. A lot of them are already pre-made and you can just use them. and don't have to create your own. But if you're interested, there's some little short videos that I made just to kind of help with that. If you want ever help doing this in class, I'm the secondary math TOSA, and I'm so happy to help anytime. Elementary math has been fascinating me this year. Jamie and T are elementary, and they can help you as well. So if you want to facilitate this in a class, if you want to find us on social media, you can find us on social media. We post things now and again. We're not super great about Instagram yet, but we're getting a little bit better. So if you want to find us there, I think by the end of this year, we should be good. We added Facebook last year and we added Instagram this year. Collections by grade level are the link in the chat. You can also just type that in if you wanted to, the bit.ly/PUSD129. And then I'll go ahead and take any questions that you have. Thank you so much for joining me today. I would love any feedback you have, like if there's a place, I hope I left a place on there for feedback on how this could work with our littlest learners. I'd love that.